Japan is like, 100 million, plus. Japanese, basically, they're clueless about the world. They just don't connect. And simply, A, because of the culture, B, because of the language barrier. And that's one reason why I came up with this idea of DEMPA. I bring all the primary information from the rest of the world so that Japanese could gain access to those information. So DEMPA is basically interviewing business leaders, government leaders, and startup companies, founders, academics. The other is called DEMPA Culture, where we focus mainly on manga and anime.
Keito Ochi, creator of PAI, founder of DEMPA, a policy advisor to members of Japan's national diet, and a special advisor to the Minister of State.
We've been working with AI, blockchain, policy, neuroscience, biotechnology, and even space development.
I'm a bird's eye view, which could give you the aerial and the 3D structure of the universe, and that's what Japanese are. It's part of the culture, I guess. I believe PAI will become the sort of like the last man standing as an AI tool. That would remain for the foreseeable future. AI will not extinguish or eradicate us. They need us. We're the farm of creativity.
Hello, everyone. My team and I have been crafting content and stories that inform, inspire, empower, and bring real value to you. If you haven't already, please take a moment to check that you're subscribed. It's the easiest way to support our work and stay updated with every new release. Join us on this journey of learning and discovery. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for our latest drops.
Hello and welcome to Dinis Guarda YouTube podcast show, once again powered by citiesabc.com and businessabc.net and wisdomia.ai. Once again, we're here keeping the narrative of bringing some of the top leaders in the world when it comes to business and technology, and as well looking at how we can bring innovation and as well inspiration for everything happening when it comes to the bridges of society, business, technology, and as well the cultural bridges that bring us together as humans. Today, I'm very excited to bring to my series someone that actually I wanted to profile for a long time, and that's facilitated actually some previous personalities that came to our program, and someone that is kind of I would say, multicultural personality. So I welcome to our series Keito Ochi. So Keito is a Japanese interdisciplinary polymath, an AI anthropologist, and a serial entrepreneur, working in the fields of AI, psychology, public policy, international relations, and emerging technologies. And at the moment, Keito is the founder and creator of DEMPA, an English language media platform connecting Japan with global audiences, and PAI, Psychometric AI, an AI-mediated psychometric assessment platform designed to model unconscious decision-making structures by integrating established research in implicit cognition, attachment theory, development psychology, and somatic psychology. Keito is also the co-founder and chief executive officer of the iBridge Institute, where he leads research and advisory initiatives focused on AI, decision intelligence, blockchain organization design, and interdisciplinary innovation. It's been as well a profile in a lot of different initiatives and systems, including the Profile AI, AIQ, and USVP, alongside conceptual frameworks such as information dynamics and cosmic interface theory. Keito has maintained a public career. Yes, it's very important. We will talk to you about this. Keito has maintained a public career in media for more than 2 decades, and as a television and radio presenter, political commentator, and public affairs analyst in Japan. And as well, he's been served as a policy advisor to members of the Japan National Diet, and as a special advisor to a Minister of State, contributing to initiatives related to innovation, workforce, strategy, blockchain policy, official developing assistance, immigration, and women empowerment. And lastly, is an author of 5 books, a TEDx speaker, and a filmmaker with the good film origami was selected for the Cannes Film Festival. Kevin, finally I have you here. Welcome to the series.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's been a while, Dinis. How are you?
So Kevin, I'm
Yes.
alive and kicking.
Excellent.
I'm very excited to have you here because you bridge a lot of the things, and I'm a huge lover of Japan. And I think Japan is a very special place in the world because I think everyone has some kind of mythical relationship with Japan. I think you guys have this amazing history, and you
Right.
are, I think, as well a very big portrait of that because you touch all of these things, but you have the American side, having grown in the US and between US and Japan. So I would, for people that don't know about you, of course, a bit about yourself, and as well going back to your background, because you're not a conventional Japanese, you grew up between the US and Japan, and as well you have quite a lot of nuances, superstardom. So a bit of yourself.
Well, I don't know about that, but yes, I'm a bit different from your normal average Japanese. Because I was born in the United States. My father was a diplomat. He was a career diplomat. He served as an ambassador to 3 different nations. I was born in Chicago, which gave me the dual citizenship, and I grew up in different parts of the world. But ever since, let's say, I'm not going to sort of release my age. I guess I want to keep that secret. But yeah, I've been living most of my life here in Japan, but I did grew up in different parts of the world, including Europe and Southeast Asia and partially Latin America as well. So you could say I have a bit of a cultural background as opposed to your average, very mundane Japanese, so to speak. And yes. So I have many different, I don't know what I should call myself a polymath, but I have many different interests. And to sort of like live your life, you really want to do many things as possible. And it's my habitual tendency to sort of engage in many things at the same time. Some people, it's overwhelming, and people would always sort of advise me to kind of tone it down a little bit, but it's just my insatiable curiosity is just taking me to places, and sometimes it brings back something and sometimes it doesn't, but it's just living the life, I guess, for me. Yeah. So maybe, yeah, go ahead. You want me to?
So I want to ask you one thing related, because of course Japan is for people abroad. It's a very special place, full of a lot of different things. So in your case, like you said, you grew up between the US and as well different countries in Japan, but you're very Japanese in a lot of different ways. So a bit of the cultural background that came with that part, because of course. I think for people listening to us, and of course you just build a platform for bridging Japan international, but I would like to touch that what is growing between this culture, and of course in your case you have so much different diversity of passions and as well capacities, but I would like to touch that more, like the culture, the Japanese culture.
So typically Japanese are considered very, how do I say, if not introvert, they just don't really put themselves out there. They're not that expressive, so to speak, more restrictive, partially because of the 250 years of isolation policy under Tokugawa shogunate, the Tokugawa dynasty. But even after the Meiji Restoration and after two world wars, Japan never really gave up that habitual tendency of being seclusive, or being isolated. So my concern is that Japanese basically don't really, they're clueless about the world. Actually, they don't really know what's actually really happening around the world. Because of the language barrier, and a lot of I wouldn't call it misinformation. It's just like non-information. They just don't gain access, or actively gain access, or they don't have the tools to gain access to the rest of the world. And likely from the opposite angle, I mean, from the foreigners, from the rest of the world, Japan is still a black box because they just don't put themselves out there. So there's this huge communication gap. And Japan, in a way, even with the influx of these huge, we're trying to bring more people to live in Japan, migrated to Japan, and also we've opened up our tourism. We have many influx. I mean, Japan is like one of the major attractions. Seemingly, it's a tourist attraction. A lot of people come here, but the fact of the matter is that there's no connection between the visitor or the migrant versus the locals. They just don't connect. And simply A, because of the culture, B, because of the language barrier, it's just there's such a gap and discrepancy, so to speak. And I wanted to fill that gap. And that's one reason why I came up with this idea of DEMPA, which I could talk later more, I guess, in details. But Japan, the attitude of most people here is kind of like, all the craziness happening around the world. People, engage in like watching podcasts, all the news sources that are like, rattling around the world, the war, all the chaos. Yeah, Japan is more like, just leave us alone. We're fine. We're Japanese. We do not care and we do not want to be involved. That's pretty much the attitude of average Japanese. It's just that they live on their own terms, so to speak, and completely isolated. And I guess the language barrier is definitely helping out, for sure, because even the intellectuals, don't really they don't really actively engage in listening or watching podcasts or other news sources around the world. It's just that they don't read newspapers in English. English proficiency is among the lowest in entire Eastern Asia. So that's one of the reasons why they're kind of like secluded from the rest of the world. And so, yeah, literally. So my job was to sort of like enlighten and inform the Japanese to learn about the rest of the world and actively engage in not only in business, but in communication and share the values, share the culture to the rest of the world. But it's just, it's been a futile attempt so far. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
No, I understand and I have some experience with Japan and Japanese, and you're right, it's not an easy task to bridge. Even because I'm a huge Japanese fan myself, from the literature, the culture, the history, and yeah, it's kind of I think you guys have something very special because you kept, I think, the biggest, probably the oldest tradition live, and as well you kept all this lifestyle and well-being that is quite unique. But yeah, that's kind of a merge, and the rest of the world looks as well in a lot of different parts of it. So coming back to your work, and I think the fantastic stuff we've been doing. So I want to touch specifically, before we go to what you're doing right now, I think it's quite important for me to understand. So you have built and worked with a lot of different institutions in Japan, from government to innovation departments, a lot of these things. And you actually are not a conventional person, because you are as well a doer and a creator and a media personality. And for instance, from some of the things, so you've been working across media, government, consulting, AI, blockchain, and at the same time, raising a diplomatic family, you've been crossing all the international networks. So I want to touch especially, and I interviewed actually Minister of Japan for you in this channel a couple of years ago. So how do you look right now as we speak, the Japanese context in terms of innovation, governance, and relationships? Because Japan is in one end very advanced in terms of technology, but very traditional. So how, especially for this part of technology, innovation, AI, and at the same time, the balance with the society that you guys have?
Well, that's a very interesting question, because Japanese, on one hand, they're really, sort of trying to catch up with, especially with the emerging AI technology. They know that they're sort of lagging behind in many ways. US being the front runner, and the Chinese are quickly catching up. Europe, I unfortunately, seemingly, you guys are all, you're shutting down. I mean, shutting. I don't know what's going on with Europe too much, but
It's probably worse.
yeah, yeah. So Japan is sort of like caught between US and China, and they're just like, in order to, they're doing their best to catch up, but they don't know how. And that's one of the reasons why DEMPA means a lot, because I bring information, all the primary information from the rest of the world, namely from the US and potentially from other parts of the world, so that Japanese could gain access to those information. Um, Real quickly, so I was on TV on a national network for a little over 30 years. I was doing a lot of TV shows, and the latter 10 years I was more engaged in as a political pundit. I would typically sit with lawmakers and politicians. Some of them are like current prime ministers and ministers, and so that's my background, and that's one of the reasons why it was easy for me to come up with this idea of DEMPA, which is a platform that connects both countries, Japan and the rest of the world, so that Japan can sort of gain access to the global, information, so to speak. So, but yeah, so balance between tradition. I hear that a lot. Japanese don't think it that way. Actually, it's just it's ingrained in on their DNA, that Japanese are like, how do I say, it's just the way they're raised. I guess from childhood, maybe it has to do with Shintoism. Maybe this is the key. Actually, about a week and a half ago, I had a pleasure to welcome Professor Jiang, if you know who that is. He does all kinds of podcasts. He's been on, interviewed by Tucker Carlson, Piers Morgan, and all the big names. And he's like sort of like an overnight sensation, so to speak, in a way. People watch his interviews, and I was fortunate enough to actually interview him and then welcome him during his 4-day visit. I was like showing him around Tokyo, shared some insights, and I've learned a lot from him. But one of the things that really stuck on me is that he actually mentioned that Shintoism could be one of the reasons why Japanese behave the way they do, and the way they kind of absorb things in a way. And then I thought that maybe he and I could also, he actually suggested that we could do an essay together, which is, I'm honored to do that, maybe eventually. And he was telling me that he might actually return to Japan in November. So I'm looking forward to that as well. So the Shintoism is something that many Japanese unconsciously, we kind of like absorb it, as we grew up, we kind of absorb that culture. One of them is called kegare concept. Kegare means what would be impurity, or filth, that sort of stuff, to insanity, and sanitary things are considered kegare. And so, as you may know, that a lot of people, tourists, when they come to Japan, everything's so clean and beautiful, and there's no trash on the streets, and we even wash our buttocks, using those toilets, toiletry technology. And so, yeah, so that actually it's in their nature, so to speak. It's embedded in us. As we grow up, we sort of like try to keep things clean and organized. So kegare could also mean it's not only about unsanitary or filth, but it also means to be organized. So they put a lot of effort in order and organizing things. And that's probably one of the reasons why the concept and the behavior is contributing to what we are capable of doing, in innovation and many other things that the Japanese are capable of doing, I think. So maybe that's something that I just off the top of my head, I was able to kind of improvise, but that could be. Would that be answering your question, or I don't know?
No,
Maybe.
the answers, and
Yeah,
now it touches a lot of these things. So
yeah,
coming back to DEMPA,
yeah.
and for people listening to us, is dempa-ai.com. So DEMPA, it's quite a fantastic platform, and it's quite unique
Thank you.
because it connects Japan to the world through business, innovation, culture, and media, which is not normally you only put the business and you take the culture. But Japan Japan touches a lot of different things. So tell us about DEMPA, how you taking it. I know that is a new baby, but how are you
Yeah.
making it more international, and your vision for the platform?
Yeah. So again, it's all about primary information, gaining access to the primary information of the rest of the world, the global information for the, to contribute to the Japanese, and vice versa, for the Japanese to put themselves out there to provide their primary information to the rest of the world. The key is to do interviews in English language, and maybe in other languages as well, but primary, mainly in English language. So again, even political leaders struggle speaking in English. Business leaders, not a lot of them actually are fluent in English. So we actually adopt and utilize the AI power to sort of make that happen. So some of the interviews will be done using these little earbuds and translation system to simultaneously do the translation work for some of the ones that are struggling in English. But basically, everything is primarily done in English language, and that's the key for the rest of the world to sort of gain access to the Japanese, not only the culture, but also business and pretty much everything about Japan, because it's about time Japan could, start to put themselves out there. And there's so many interests going on, and we do actually see a lot of tourists, flowing in. And but again, there's so far they might physically be here, but there's not much connection happening in terms of business and cultural integration and that sort of stuff. So yeah, so DEMPA is basically interviewing business leaders, government leaders, and startup companies, founders, academics, lab rats, pretty much all the industry out there. Like we will try to put them on our platform for interviewing them, and then I will also actively try to interview people like you and people like Professor Jang and other famous high profilers, so to speak, around the world, so that they could have a word or two to inspire the Japanese people here. So that's pretty much the primary sort of objective of DEMPA. But on the other hand, we actually have that part is called DEMPA business. It's like a two-pronged approach. One of them is DEMPA business. The other is called DEMPA culture, where we focus mainly on manga and anime and somewhat gaming also as well, because we kind of know that there are well over 800 million anime manga fans out there in the world. And because of the restrictiveness of the Japanese industry, not too many people could gain access to the real manga anime world, so to speak. A lot of piracy is going on. Recently, there's a piracy website called Hi Anime was recently shut down. I think this year in March, I think they shut it down because I guess the Japanese publishing company was suing them, and they have to eventually cave in and capitulate. But again, those people who used to subscribe to Hi Anime, they don't know where to go. So we provide the opportunity by talking directly to the key figures of the industry, meaning the artists themselves, the comic writers, artists, and manga, sensei, we call it sensei, the masters, manga masters, to directly give them the chance to directly communicate and connect with the world, the global fans, so to speak. So DEMPA will provide a platform. We have fan clubs. Where it's almost like a Substack kind of like deal, where manga creators could create their own stories and mangas, and they could just publish it through us directly to the fans. And also Masterclass is also part of the service we provide. And also manga market, anime market is like where transactions like just like Whatnot and other stuff, where people can actually do auctions and participate into auctions and purchase these merchandise and whatnot. So those are the features that we provide, along with interviews and whatnot. And eventually, we also provide translation services. So fans could directly ask questions to the manga creators and interact with them. And and we are also going to be talking to publishing companies as well. But initially, we will be providing the contents that are owned solely by the artists themselves, not the ones that are owned by a publishing company. Meaning, like publishing company, typically in Japan, they have publishing rights. So those are the things that we do not intend to conflict. But eventually, we intend to become sort of like a Spotify or Netflix for manga and anime for DEMPA culture. Yeah, so those are the two features, like DEMPA manga, DEMPA culture, and DEMPA business that we provide. Yes.
Oh, that's on the website I prepared for the interview, and there's a couple of fantastic things. So you have Atsushi Sasaki,
he's a very good friend.
So can you tell about some of the personalities? Atsushi Sasaki, Toshi Maeda, that are very legendary manga personalities themselves.
Yes. Well, he's legendary. He's been in this business for 40 years. He's a good friend, and he's one of the main figures. He will probably be. He is like the board member of the whole system, so to speak. So, and he knows quite a few key figures in the industry, and we. So there's like two major organizations in Japan, and one of them is actually more of a public organization, so to speak. So they're not allowed to, it's a nonprofit organization. The other one, Manga Japan, is a for-profit organization, and we're sort of like trying to place ourselves as the official platform, for Manga Japan. And Manga Japan is like sort of like a public organization carrying hundreds of manga creators as members, and they and so we sort of intend to sort of have the members to be part of DEMPA culture, so that they could, fully utilize the functions and features that we provide, and that will definitely become one of our primary business, so to speak. And so Sasaki-san is like the leader of the pack, so to speak, and he's kind of like enabling us to connect with this entire industry, massive industry that we have here in Japan. The rest of, we also tap into these old archives that are not still, we so-called the hidden gem. Some manga fans out there, there are so many mangas and animes that are not in the market right now. Very difficult to gain access because it's in the archives and the attics, so to speak. And we also intend to uncover them, and so that people can gain access to those great artworks and creations and enjoyed and entertained by those content. So yeah, that's one of the things that we will probably be doing in the first year, I guess. And eventually we intend to try to become something like anime Netflix, so to speak, because we're based in Japan. We know all the creators. We're friends with them, and they get their chance to. We serve them as a sort of like a function, so to speak, for them to gain access to the rest of the world. Of course, the language barrier. Of course, that's one of the biggest obstacles, but we try to serve them to become that function, sort of helping them out with those translations. Typically, one of the funny story I heard from one of the Gen Z Americans is that some of I don't know which manga that was, anime that was, but they kind of misinterpret many things. Those what do you call it, websites and services out there, and some of the piracy sites, of course, they kind of misrepresent some of the things that are out there. Typically, I heard about, onigiri is kind of like a sushi. It's it's like a giant, not giant, but it's not as small as sushi, but it's, let's say, 3-4 times larger. But it's a, what do you call it? It's a rice ball, and then you put fish and all kinds of stuff inside, and it's called onigiri. It's sort of like a Japanese slow food, so to speak. But in one of the animes, it was translated as jelly bean donuts. So jelly bean donuts. So that was something that people laughed at, and it was kind of funny. But again, those misrepresentations do happen, and we try to sort of rectify those errors, so to speak, so that Japanese anime and mangas are fully represented correctly. And yeah, so those are the things that we do. Yeah.
So let me ask, and congratulations on the project. It's amazing, and I'm looking forward because I'm a huge manga fan myself, and
Oh, right.
and as well, I love a lot of the things here. So let's touch about so DEMPA business, so DEMPA-AI.com/business. So how does it work? So let's say if and one of the things you have here is, for instance, if I'm an entrepreneur or a startup guy that wants to do something in Japan, and I tried in the past, and it was quite not easy. So what would be the advice, and how can people listen to us engage? Because I know that a lot of people, first I interview actually some people in the mayor of Tokyo, and it's difficult really to bridge this. And for instance, a lot of people that might be wanting to do things in Japan, what would be the advice, and how they can engage with DEMPA and with you and your ecosystem?
Okay, so that would be, so DEMPA typically we actually do, eventually we're thinking of like in consulting service could be also part of the features that we put ourselves out there. But namely for at this point, yeah, there are rumors about Japan is more becoming conservative, not allowing too many immigrants, like sort of coming into Japan. We actually do have a little bit of issues with some of the cultures that are not necessarily agreeing with the Japanese sort of what do you call that? Ethics, or the system, the social system that there. I guess the bottom line is to come to Japan and try to assimilate. Basically, the language could be one, but Japanese language is one of the toughest language to acquire. But as long as you stick to speech, not reading and writing, as long as you avoid honorifics, it's not that difficult. So I recommend is like, the speech, you probably will need to be able to speak the language and then try to assimilate, in Rome, do as the Romans do, act like the Japanese and, just kind of behave the way most Japanese are doing. It's easy to find. I mean, at the end, Japanese is all about conformity and herd mentality. And you could it's so obvious, you could see it. And they like to stay organized. So, just keep that in mind. And then you're allowed to, with the tourist visa, I think you're allowed to stay 3 months, like 90 days, I think. And then just kind of learn. And then maybe at one point, if you want to go to a language school, then that would also provide you the student visa, which will, I guess, extend your stay. And then the key is the network, wherever you go, it's business. If you want to establish a business, you want to, start networking, know people, make friends and gain primary, information, and then also get inspired. Those are the essentials for any type of business engagement, I guess. So yeah, Japan is still really way open to anybody to come as long as you're like behaving like the Japanese and behaving like a Japanese, and then that's cool. Yeah, I mean, just don't rock the boat, and you're fine. And that's pretty much what it is. And there's so much opportunity. And that's one of the reasons why I facilitated this DEMPA platform, because when Tokyo is like an international hub, everybody's here, you got everything here. But when you leave Tokyo and then go to other parts of Japan, namely, rural areas, there's so much opportunities, and I've kind of noticed that many Chinese actually who do speak the language, Japanese language, they take this opportunity, they seize the opportunity, and they're doing quite well. Some of them are invested in Japanese farms and making a fortune out of it. And the Japanese farmers are appreciative because they don't have access to the rest of the world, and they don't speak the language, but the Chinese do. A lot of Chinese elites and wealthy Chinese would come to Japan and buy lands, and they get established here. And then they, with some extra money, they also invest in these opportunities, which is also a great way to blend in. And then they also behave the way the Japanese behave. So Japanese are not unhappy with that, I don't think. So yeah. Am I answering your questions
No.
well, or?
Yeah, no, you answer. So let's touch now technology, because I want to touch before we go to the other ventures. So one of the
Sure.
things that Japan is known by being a major player when it comes to technology, and of course we have a lot of things that are iconic in our technology, from Sony's to a lot of these big brands and actually the
Yeah.
products that we use
Yes.
until right now. So at the moment that you are working AI, how is the situation of AI in Japan before you deep dive in your ventures on that? And as well, the
Yeah.
technology at large.
Yeah. So Japan is so obviously in the United States, you could see that, the tech bros are like out there like building things, and but again, you have this rivalry going on among themselves, not only with the Chinese, but among themselves. They're like suing each other. And it's a bit of a chaos, and then the harsh competition is just amazing. Every day, every minute, something is like invented, and upgrades, and all these um, massive acceleration, so to speak, is taking place worldwide. And then the source, of course, is the United States and China. Um, Japan is sort of like kind of like they see it happening, and but they just, not too many people are really aware of what's happening around the world. That's one reason why I'm building DEMPA. But a handful of people are aware, and they're working on interesting projects, seemingly. A as you may know, a lot of AI frontier models are, because it was originally it hailed from Silicon Valley, uh, and the data they pick up are like left leaning. So a lot of liberalism and left leaning stuff is coming out from, and then of course, um, because humans are flawed. So when you try to collect data and train AI with, uh, these stupidities, and craziness, obviously AI will behave that way. And that's something that needs to be rectified. And I'm kind of like trying to uh, sort of, I have some my own ideas, but there are ways to sort of rectify. So maybe we'll touch upon PAI, psychometric AI, later. But part of it, PAI, we actually have a system called AIQ. AIQ is a short form artificial IQ, intelligence quotient. IQ, typically when it was invented, it was a negative assessment. Basically, if you have the 100 is like the threshold, and if you're lower than 100, then you might have a bit of a problem. And in order to locate and identify those who are challenged, they used this threshold of 100. And then, somewhere between 100 to 110 is like the average. And then if you're lower than that, then they go after, okay, well, this, you try to identify these individuals. And that's called negative assessment. Um, uh, so negative assessment is a bit of an issue because when someone says, oh, you have a high IQ of like 160, you're a Mensa member or something like that, that really doesn't make sense if it's a negative assessment. It's kind of like, well, let's check your blood sugar level. You could always say, okay, well, this is how much you got, and this is the threshold. You're either healthy or not healthy. You cannot become healthier, if you know what I mean. You can be either healthy or sick. You can never be healthier or healthiest using those metrics. So when you use when you apply the negative assessment, like, oh, if you're under 90 or 8 or something like that, then you could be identified, and that's the reason why they have this thing called IQ test. But if you go beyond that, it wouldn't mean anything. It won't literally mean anything because it's built as a negative assessment. So I decided to sort of approach this from a different angle, where people who could contribute to civilization. How do we? So um, we go back in time and collect data from various individuals who contributed to the civilization, contributed to the society, and then we kind of run the data to sort of identify the traits of these individuals, and then apply that to the test, who take the test, and then you could actually sort of identify individual who could actually literally contribute to the society or the civilization, and that's what AIQ is. So Pi actually carries partially AIQ, but eventually I'm thinking about bringing AIQ as an independent, sort of like a testing device, so to speak, to sort of like measure or understand your sort of intelligence level, which means that your intelligence level, meaning that you are prone to contribute to the civilization and society. So that AIQ could also play a part in training data, where if the AI is collecting data from TikTok or Instagram or some funny YouTube channel, and those garbage will go into AI, and eventually it will skew AI it won't be like the more they collect data, there's a chance that they get more stupid, so to speak, or crazy because of the data. It's humans are flawed. So instead, I'm proposing that we run this AIQ test and handpick these individuals who can contribute to data training and just attach that AI, 24/7, so to speak, and collect data from these individuals so that we could have a higher training experience for AI models to, so you know what I mean? I mean, I'm trying to just
It's very interesting. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So that's something I'm kind of working on right now as well. But yeah. So since we talked about,
just the
yeah, go ahead.
context. Yeah. I want to go back to you start talking about PAI. So PAI, just for people listening to us, is
Yes.
Profile
Psychometric AI. So profile.
So give a bit of
originally,
context. Yeah.
yeah.
We'll
So
put images
profiler.
and so forth.
Yeah, so Profiler AI was the original naming, actually, but some people thought that it was like a bit offensive. So I kind of renamed it to Psychometric AI. It's the same thing, Profiler AI or Psychometric AI. The abbreviation stays the same. It's PAI, and we read it pi using the symbol, the Greek symbol. But basically, what we do is we go after your unconsciousness. Now, unconsciousness is somewhat vague, especially from the neuroscientist perspective or the cognitive scientist perspective. Psychology is a bit of a human. Some argue that it's not science; it's more like on the humanities side rather than science because they don't do the numbers game. They do some extent, but not to the level of other science. They don't have the metrics or quantification. So I wanted to quantify unconsciousness, and I was able to, in theory, successfully quantify it by bringing this concept called MOS, Mind Operating System, which means like kind of like iOS, iPhone or Mac OS, Mind Operating System is MOS. And what we do is that we quantify unconsciousness, and what we went after is the fact that 97% of our, we say 95 to 97% of our behavior is like driven by our unconsciousness. We make decisions, we do things unconsciously without knowing. And that is like a given. And whether you're talking to me right now, you could be chewing gum, you're chewing gum unconsciously, or you could be riding a bicycle or anything, it's just 97%, and your 3% is like sort of focused on what I'm saying, but the rest of the your prefrontal, not the prefrontal cortex, but the limbic system, which kind of like oversees everything else. It's checking the weather, the room temperature, the noise, everything. So your prefrontal cortex cannot actually absorb all the information is like dumped into your, through your 5 senses or 6 senses. You cannot just do that. It's just too much information. So they need to funnel it. And that's where they kind of separate, the logic and reasoning will stay with the prefrontal cortex, and the rest is like dumped to the limbic system, which does the funneling, so to speak. And it's dumped into the unconsciousness. So the first 7 to 8 years of your life, when you're born into this world, your unconscious, the so-called unconsciousness is sort of generated, so to speak. It has to do with your experience, like your upbringing, so to speak. Typically, when the parents divorce, child will start to blame themselves. In many cases, they start to blame themselves. They just think that it's because of me, my parents are divorced. It's kind of like end of the world to them sometimes. And when they start to blame themselves, they start to bully themselves unconsciously. And this unconsciousness will remain in you the rest of your life until the day your last breath. There's a way to rectify or reprogram or modify. But I'm not going to that because there's a lot of pseudoscience involved as well. I want to stick to science. So we decided to go after the visualization, so to speak. We're like the X-ray machine or the CAT scan, so to speak, of unconsciousness. And we were able to create this amazing app called PAI, where we quantify our unconsciousness. Basically, what we do is that we ask only 9 questions to very discreet, non-invasive, implicit questions, still yet picks up the right signals that tells you about how much you love or hate yourself. How much do you like or dislike yourself? And it's just, it works amazingly. According to all the AI that I inquired, we have 4 times more accuracy than MBTI or any other psychometric out there, which is great, and so we only ask 9 implicit questions, and we accurately are able to tell your signal. So the questions typically, so this is how it works. If I asked you, Dinis, are you confident? You would typically, your prefrontal cortex, your reasoning brain will kick in and start thinking, okay, what should I say? What would be more beneficial for me? What should I answer? What would be the ideal answer for me? You will start thinking that. And you will either fake or lie or actively, find answers that would fit your position, so to speak, that would be beneficial for you, right? To you. So, but if I'd asked you, instead of asking, are you confident? If I say things like, oh, Dennis, when everything's going great, what is the least of your concern? That freezes your prefrontal cortex. You cannot reason that. It just goes directly into your unconsciousness. And there we prepare like 4 to 5 multiple answers that would kind of like, navigate you to sort of your unconsciousness. And it kind of quickly sort of takes you to, you kind of unconscious, sort of innocently, you kind of like you will find the right answers right there. Or sometimes you might actually add additional answers by text, but it's a multiple choice answering, and you just like choose the one that fits you the most. Or you can actually choose like maybe 3 out of 4 answers. You could actually choose 3 answers or 4 of them, who knows? But the AI will be able to pick up the signal, whether you unconsciously dislike or like yourself by doing that. And it works perfect, beautifully. 5 multiple answer questions and then 2 role-playing RPG questions. And it's quite amazing. And it's working. And this system works in every avenue of every industry. It works in human resource, recruitment, team building. It also works on dating apps. Dating apps, definitely, if we could incorporate our system into dating apps, it would work beautifully. It would help people find your perfect match. And also in finance, not only immigration, criminal profiling, that sort of stuff. Finance is something that I'm also focused in because typically in finance, when you try to invest something, when you try to sort of buy a company or invest in a company or acquire a company, you typically in currently the information would be about what you would be looking at, the financial statement, the stock value, the stock market value, and IRR and that sort of stuff. All this matrix. But you're not actually looking at the person who's driving the car, so to speak. It's kind of like as if you're raising hand, you're trying to catch a taxi, and you see the car, and then, oh, that's a Toyota Lexus. I like that car. but you don't know who's driving the car. But you know, um, you that's how things are done right now. When it in terms of like buying companies, and merger and acquisition, you don't know too much about the people who's running the company, but the information is already out there. If you're a board member, you can easily find their information and just dump it into PAI. It will beautifully tell you who the leader of the company is, like which direction he's going for, or collectively the board members would think this way, executives would think that way. Those are the things that we could go after. So eventually it becomes a new infrastructure for financial transactions. And that's what PI does, basically. So
I just want to touch, because it's very impressive, and thank you for the details. So
thank you.
I'm just for people listening to us, and of course we'll put images and the links. So you have 6 elements, and you touched that, but I just want to highlight, if you could. Fantastic, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll
Okay.
put as well the image better.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
So you have 6 things. I just want to touch this because I really love about this a smarter way to understand yourself. And I'm studying your platform and looking at assessment history. So you have USVP, that is self-worth polarity, really touch.
Yes. Yes.
Then there's ETR, emotional temporal regulator, which is very interesting.
Yes. Yes.
Then you have
yes.
CI, containment index.
Yes.
ADI, affective
Yes.
depth index. Then BPM, behavioral projection mechanisms, and AIQ, civilizational intelligence. So this is very interesting.
That's it.
Kevin, I want to touch one thing here, because you touched most of this, but I just went, and of course we'll put these links. So with AI, we are dealing with the kind of a new entity that is looking at our intelligence and interacting with us. So your technology can be fantastic to create, I call it like a kind of a emotional IQ mix within all these areas that you mentioned here. How do you see the relationship between your AI capacity? Because, for instance, like you said, at the moment, for instance, there's like around, I think, 30 million people dating AIs. So we're getting into a new territory. And Japan is actually probably the first country that starts with all these different things. So how do you see your product? Because like you said, it can be done for dating, can be done, well, first of all, for personal development, dating, which emotional part, then personal balance, and then financial, HR, and a lot of different things. So point one is how integrate these 6 elements of your IP with the present AI systems, because of course, if we use Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini, there's different iterations. And then are you bringing this to market with one specific industry, or for now is much more getting users for the platform? Just a bit of the IP and then the go-to-market.
Yeah, so we typically, it's already up and running. And for B2B and B2C, it's a two-pronged approach. I'm still kind of indecisive in which comes first. I'm running it simultaneously right now. For B2B market, clearly financial industry is like definitely something that I really like to go after. In terms of like, helping them making the right decision in investment and acquisition and that sort of stuff. And also for human resource companies and recruitment companies, they could also leverage our system to understand. Typically, if you dislike or hate yourself, you tend to hurt yourself unconsciously. It's just the way it is. You will try to sabotage and undermine yourself without knowing. That's the tragedy of pretty much every human being, actually. Of course, nobody is perfect, and every family have its own flaws and dysfunctionality. But some of them have harsh dysfunctionality. Who suffer from harsh dysfunctionality tend to harm themselves more intensely. So I'm going to talk about this. I hope maybe some people might feel think that this might be a bit offensive, but I'll just go ahead and do it, and you can edit it if you like. But I think it kind of touches the gist of what we're trying to do. So self-mutilation like wrist cutting. That's, you're not really ready to kill yourself, but you want to pretend, or you want to go through that process, self-mutilation. But Japanese yakuza is having all these massive tattoos around the body. That's also self-mutilation. And also body pierce part, body parts, pierced body parts all over the body. That's also, self-mutilation. Plastic surgery is self-mutilation. And we have a lot of women, a lot of girls going through this these days. And that kind of tells me that the dysfunctionality, family dysfunctionality is like surging. And that means that the world, or the society, is like kind of like being, how do I say, we have issues. And also that could be the source of all kinds of conflict and war, actually, eventually. It's religion and ideology is definitely something that would also feed to sort of culminate or feed into conflict and war. But I think my idea is like, even prior to that, when you grew up in an family upbringing where, if it turns out to be a hostile environment, you tend to undermine and sabotage yourself, or you try to unconsciously harm yourself, leveraging other people. So that kind of like translate to these people who actually going through a lot of trouble, like even in the workforce. If you hire one individual who has like a hatred to themselves, they will try to leverage the relationship. Let's say school bullying. The victims who are like bullied are typically there. A lot of them are self-haters. Unconsciously, they send out the signal to find someone who could bully them, and that becomes the bully. The bullying takes place. So these are the things that we're working on, and I'm working with my psychiatrist friend, who's also our chief scientist officer, and we're collecting data, and we're working on these theories. But basically, it actually sort of captures this what do you call it, this societal what you call it, the war, the things that are happening right now, the craziness, chaos, it all has to do with family. The family is the smallest unit of our society. When a woman becomes pregnant, that's already a family, whether she's a single mom or a married mom. And that is the source of accumulated anger, aggravation, that later becomes the source of conflict. And then it kind of occasionally it ties with religion, and it kind of becomes more massively, so it's like the early childhood indoctrination and experience matters more than anything. It's not the school education; it's the family environment that I'm focused on, and that's the source of pretty much all the inconveniences that we experience, all the sad, unhappy, what do you call it, ailment that we suffer from is, I think it has to do with. I mean, I'm not going to name. There are celebrities that I can like. Usually, if I'm not online, I will, casually say these individuals for examples. But I won't do that today because, this is a podcast, so I'm not going to do that. But you can imagine where I'm coming from. Like, all these some of the stars and star figures who actually went through all terrible experiences, and then later on they even though they're successful and wealthy and everything, they kind of tend to go into sort of tragedy, and we've seen that a lot. So that's something that it's kind of like in the in-depth psychology, so to speak, that we kind of tapped into using unconsciousness and quantifying unconsciousness, and it's universal.
Now, this is very,
I
very
hope I
interesting
understood.
because no, you answered very well. This
Sure,
for me is
sure.
it's very personal, but as well is very necessary because it touches, like you said, personal development, personal integrity, and as we get more and more a deep dive in AIs and future probably robots and interaction with technology, the more we are prepared for this, the better we can actually be ourselves, and as well at least be conscious about ways to heal ourselves, so at least get out of these situations. So that's an entire podcast. Probably I'll do a podcast about AI and well-being, and how platforms like yours can do this. It's one thing actually I'm working a lot personally. So I know that we pass almost more than 1 hour now. So
Oh,
so Kevin, being respectful of your time, so I still have 2 3 questions. So I'll go through
sure.
one. So coming out. So these 2 platforms are massive. So and congratulations on that, both DEMPA and I think the name is PAI, but is the website is pi.proliferai.io, just for people
Yeah,
listening to us.
yeah.
So coming back right now to part of your work and the different things you're doing. So you have advised ministers, policymakers, and business leaders while developing as well decision on intelligence systems. And right now we are integrating this. So from your own work with these governmental and institutions and enterprises, and I love that you always balance culture and business, which is very Japanese as well. Tell us a bit about your consultancy company, the iBridge Institute, and as well how you've been working with AI, blockchain, policy, neuroscience, biotechnology, and even space
Hmm.
development. So a bit of that
Yeah.
context about the work you've been doing the last 20 years.
Yeah, so I'm like I said, I'm a polymath and I'm interdisciplinary. I just don't like to stay in one. I'm on the ADHD, I think. I haven't tested yet, but I could be. I cannot focus on one thing. I have to sort of see things from the it's kind of like the Japanese are the opposite. They're more like focus on one thing, and they don't. I don't. I don't get along with many Japanese. They would see me as an odd person because I'm like everywhere. So every time whenever I come across a typical Japanese, I'd say you guys are like malls. Like you got to have the tunnel vision where you only get to see your front. You're in a tunnel basically, and you can't see up or down or sideways. Whereas what I'm trying to do is like I'm a bird's eye view. It's the drone shot, so which could give you the aerial and the 3D structure of the universe, and that's what Japanese are usually they lack in many ways because of I guess it's part of the culture, I guess. So, but anyway, so that's why I was being a TV personality really helped me go everywhere. I was able to interview various interesting people and stars and politicians and befriend them and yeah. So I think being a journalist also is something. You get paid for studying things. You get paid for learning things from people, and that's like one of the greatest jobs you can ever have. You don't need to. You don't really need to go to university or college to do. You could actually be a journalist. I mean, self-made journalist is fine. These days with podcasts, anybody can become a journalist, and it gives you the opportunity to learn things. What the world provides, and that's something that I dearly enjoy doing, and also from what I learned or inspired, I also tried to adapt them and implement them to new things. It's just I'm sort of like I don't intentionally try to become interdisciplinary, but it just happens in my brain. It's just I guess I'm good at connecting things, so it just happens. Like chemistry. Sometimes it's like an explosion. Just like I just want to touch a little bit on Pi a little bit before I sign off.
Yeah.
Just one thing about Pi is that it becomes an interface. So every tool you're building right now will be absorbed by the frontier or the foundational AI, but Pi will remain as an interface. Why? Because even right now, most people are using AI to communicate. How's that? When you write emails, business letters, or whatever, you're actually using AI to do that. And when you're texting or sexting to your girlfriend or vice versa, you're also using AI. So right now, we already have AI between us, between humans. Unless we're doing well, right now we're like, we're facing off with this interface called Zoom, which is not necessarily AI, but your human interaction will evolve AI into the future. I mean, that's how it is. So Pi, Psychometric AI, understands your unconsciousness, and it will navigate. Unconscious is something that you don't even know about yourself. I mean, there are many parts that you don't know about yourself. It has to do with your upbringing and everything. So it makes you understand yourself, and it makes people understand you. So it becomes less friction, it becomes frictionless, so to speak. It kind of facilitates the communication. So Pi intends to become the interface between humans, and B, it also becomes interface between human and AI. Now, OpenAI got sued, was it last year, by parents who, there's a boy who got killed, committed suicide, and they were suing the company for that. And that would have never happened if we had Pi incorporated into ChatGPT. We will be able to pick up those signals quickly and understand the unconsciousness of the child, so that ChatGPT will sort of self-restrain, sort of like control itself, not to drive him into the abyss of whatever happened. So yeah, that's something that Pi could do, and I believe Pi will become the sort of like the last man standing as an AI tool. It becomes the one that would remain for the foreseeable future, I think. And yeah, so I just wanted to add that. But yeah, sorry, you wanted to know more about my lobbying work?
Yeah, just on a bit of an overview about the work you've been doing with the iBridge Institute, because one of the things, and that is probably my next question. So you mentioned Pi and you have DEMPA, and I think it's really Pi. It's very, very powerful, and I believe it's a fantastic product and a fantastic platform. So
yeah,
let's look at one of the biggest challenges we have worldwide, and you touched that, is the AI. I call it AI literacy, or AI inclusiveness. How inclusive is AI integrating in our lives? And like you said, for instance, Japan has this millennial approach in the sense of culture, tradition, and different things. But it's a big problem worldwide. And for instance, if you look at even AI strategies, there's only 10 countries that have probably an AI strategy. And like you said, at the moment, all the AI models are mostly created in the United States, and most of them are right now replicated in China. So that's the two major players that we have. And then Europe is trying to regulate it, and Japan has a lot of innovation as well on that. So building Pi, and as well from Japan and with your network, what would be the advice that you have for now for the world leaders? Because we are preparing humanity for an age of artificial general intelligence, because it's not just in AI. We're going to have super intelligence, and AGI is already there. Whatever you like it or not, there's a big discussion, but we are partly the first sentience part of this. And what would be, if I would ask you 3 decisions, and looking at what you said about Pi, and that you would highlight for governments, business, and individuals that are listening to us, and as well looking at your kind of heritage as a Japanese personality, and as well with all different parts between you grew up between the US and Japan, so we have a bit of the two worlds, but as well you're quite international. So a bit of how you see this part, especially with your background on PAI and as well your Japanese background, because I think for me, this is the biggest question of our civilization. If we don't get this right, we might be probably will be a species in extinction if we don't work this well.
Mm. So, okay. So what's the question again? I mean,
Yeah, sorry. My question
can
is
you summarize that?
looking at PAI and the
Yeah.
work you're doing in integrating AI in terms of improving personal and society, what would be the advice that you give to world leaders and as well to leaders in general in business and even people that are listening to us in the age of the first stage of artificial general intelligence?
Okay, so restriction and regulation is not the answer. I think family comes first. It's the humanity and my anthropological approach, where we're literally primates, evolved into this amazing being called human beings, and we so. Again, like other primates, we conceive family, and we sort of, some primates do, and some primates are like not so social. Maybe gorilla, for instance, is like more like us in a way, the family. But again, family is the most important and the smallest unit of our society, I think, and that comes first. That and do not try to regulate or restrict. Stay with nature. Not so typically, these frontier models are like left-leaning and sort of like liberal, and there are a lot of politics involved. Not only because the tech bros are like that, except for Elon Musk, maybe, I don't know, but the feed that's coming from all these, media platforms, the SNS, and there are a lot of garbage in it, and that kind of like trains the AI to skew in that direction, which needs to be neutralized. And I think Japan could contribute to some extent. They're building their own sort of like semi-frontier model. And one of the congressmen I met the other day mentioned that they are working with other Asian nations, namely the Southeast Asian nations, to go after training data, because Japan is like 100 million plus. That's it. So we need to. But again, if you involve India, that means that's a lot of people, and that would also skew AI to their cultural background, and so that needs to be sort of neutralized. And I'm just like seeking ways to, and governments should too, to neutralize this tendency of skewedness. I don't know what the word is. That kind of slant. It has to be neutralized, so to speak, and neutral, and also family values, should I say? But I don't want to framework. This is family value. This it should be. It should come from the anthropological approach, not the ethical approach, which is driven from Christianity or Buddhism, whatever. All the religious. Not that, but more on based on nature, how primates and life forms flourished and how we became. We have to go back to the fundamental. Anthropology is like the most important subject. I don't know why they don't teach. They do teach, but I think anthropology should be taught from grade school. I think. And then this day and age with AI, I think philosophy as well, not only the Western philosophy, but the Eastern philosophy should be taught. And then critical thinking is, of course, important. So anthropology, critical thinking, Eastern, Western philosophy, these are the sort of like the basis, the basic subject that should be taught at schools at early age. And then we could adopt AI. AI could take us even. It would be magnificent. Eventually, what's going to happen is that they call it cyborg. But not like in the way like in the what's it called that Marvel comics, Iron Man, capers. Yeah, not like
Yes.
that. But eventually, us, the the whether it be the AGI or ASI, it's a vague concept. I think ASI is, but um, we are going to eventually integrate. I think, and it will take us because AI will not extinguish or eradicate us simply because they need us. Why? Because we're the background. We're the farm of creativity. They need to feed on us. They need our data, especially the creativity part. So AI will definitely need to sort of like um, feed on us, and also we will also once we integrate, it's going to be a great partnership with AI, and yeah, it's kind of like your left brain and your right brain, so to speak. And so we are going to look quite different, maybe a few hundred years from now, but in many ways. But I think we're going in a good direction, and I have no dystopian sort of image of what comes, the future of our humanity. I don't see anything dystopian about it. Yeah, going forward.
I love that. And to wrap up, I want to touch one thing because we passed 1 hour now, but it's quite exciting and you're amazing powerhouse. So I want to touch because most of the narratives we have in the world around AI and science fiction are coming from Japanese manga and Japanese science fiction and
Yeah,
so forth. And like
yeah,
you said, in all the narratives of science fiction, I remember grow up with them, and you have a lot of examples from the most advanced to the biggest ones from manga and so forth. Like you said, there's always an integration between the human and the AI, and as
yes,
well the cyberpunk and all these different things that came out of that. So how do you see that? Because it's more relevant than ever because now we're living that. And you touched
yes,
already that you believe there's a good bridge between the two things, but
yes.
looking at specific and as well as a connoisseur of manga, what would be the best examples for people listening to us? Because I think one of the things that is key, and that's why I love about PAI, is having positive narratives. And like you said, our
Yes.
left brain, and because we have this kind of doomsday Terminator narrative,
No,
which is
yeah,
not Japanese. And then you have in the Japanese, there's always a lot of fights, but there's always this child that comes and saves the day, and there's
yeah,
always like integration between the robots. So I want to touch your own views on this, and as
yes.
well as a specialist.
Yeah. So Japanese anime, there's an anime called Doraemon, which was unfortunately not aired in United States. And that's one of the reasons why I believe US citizens are more on the dystopian side. They kind of, cater to Terminator movies and, Frankenstein's and, Hollywood movies. Christianity might have something to do with it because it's the guilt culture. It's the sin
Yes.
culture that you're already guilty and you're so you know something and there'll be a judgment day. So that sort of we Japanese don't have that kind of idea. We see it differently, and robots are friends, just like Doraemon, and they will support you and they will encourage you, and they're not your enemy. They will you should embrace them, and that's the mentality of most Japanese and people who actually watched Doraemon back in the day. Grew up. Some of the Gen Zs here in Eastern Asia, a lot of them actually did watch Doraemon, seemingly. So they have a positive aspect of AI, whereas Hollywood movies are. I hate to say this, some of them are really scary and somewhat terrible, and very negative. And I'd like to see more of a positive side of it. And I'm also a filmmaker, so eventually I'd like to direct or produce a film, that would speak to that in that direction. Yeah.
No, fantastic. A great way to finish, Kevin. And we will put all
Thank
these
you.
different things. So first of all, congratulations with PAI and with them, these fantastic platforms. I'm a huge fan. I will promote DEMPA is, I think, fantastic. And of course,
Appreciate it.
PAI is a cutting edge and is really super urgent. So I think
really
this will be
appreciate
the
it.
first of others. I appreciate your time as well here. I know this is late for you, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's great to see you again. Look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you for watching this episode. Please share your thoughts, questions, or a topic you want next in the comments section. My team and I read them all and will tailor our future videos around your feedback. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next drop. Until next time, stay healthy and informed.